Tell me what war you served in and what was your branch of service?
In the Second World War, and it was U.S. Navy Seabees.
What was your rank?
My highest rank was the second-class petty officer, storekeeper dispersing.
And where did you serve?
Starting at Sampson, New York with the basic training, and then to Davisville, Rhode Island in Camp Endicott, and then to Port Hueneme in California, and from Port Hueneme to California to Okinawa.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
Were you living? Where were you living at that time?
I was living at home. In fact, I was going to school. At World War II, at 18, when you became 18 years old, you were subject to the draft, and there was no choice as to what service you went in. The school system I was in, if there was sufficient points, if you enlisted in the service before graduating in the 12th year, you would get a diploma. Well, I had enough credits for a diploma by the time I was in the 12th year for a general diploma. So I enlisted in the U.S. Navy, and I went to Sampson, New York, and at Sampson, New York, they placed me in the Seabees, where I was transferred to Camp Endicott in Rhode Island, and then to Port Hueneme, and of course again to Okinawa.
Perhaps you already mentioned it. Why did you pick the Navy?
Well, I lived along the shore in Rhode Island, and so the Navy was my choice because I lived near the water and I spent a good deal of time on the water.
Can you recall your first days in the service? Tell us a little bit about your first days in the service.
My first days in the service, because it was in Sampson, New York. They had some type of lights, and it was supposed to be something to do with preventing colds. Well, it didn't prevent colds. It just you had lighting there all the time, and there was really not very much darkness. I think that's in Sampson, New York. I guess I'm trying to think. When it was in Port Hueneme, which was in Oxford, California, 70 miles north of California, I do remember going to the, I remember going to, what is it, the shows that they had with
USO.
What is it?
The USO shows?
The USO shows that they had with the movie stars. And I recall seeing movie stars there, which was a real treat to me. Here I'm 17 years old, and I recall Pat O'Brien. I saw Pat O'Brien along the street, and I always remember he said, "Hi, sailor," and I was so thrilled about that. And later, I went to a show that he was in, some radio show that he was in, so it was a big thrill.
Now, you did your boot camp in where?
Sampson, New York.
Do you have any stories about your boot camp experience that you remember?
Well, no. Actually, I guess the only thing, boot camp, ordinarily at the time was supposed to be 8 weeks. I was only in boot camp for 4 weeks, and then I was transferred into the Seabees in camp and down in Rhode Island. I am not sure. I think preparations were being made for something that happened when we got to California. So I think they were just trying to get us out of boot camp a little bit faster than was ordinary.
Do you happen to remember any of your instructors at that time?
It's so long ago. At Sampson, New York, I know of course, it was an older fella. He could have been 24 years old. To me, that was old. But he was, I recall, he was a very nice person. He came from Massachusetts, and he was just a nice person. I wish I could remember his name. I know that after the service, I had made contact with him, but I can't remember who it is now.
So how did you get through it? That, especially that boot camp at the beginning, was it tough on you getting through that?
No, I don't think so. I don't have any bad the only experience I had, which it's not an experience, on my dog tags, it shows my blood is O. Well, years later, when I was going to give blood for the Red Cross, they said I had type A. I said, no, you can't be right. It's O, but I have type A. So somewhere along the line, they made a mistake, so my dog tags has the wrong blood type.
Wow. You mentioned you served in World War II, and you said that you had gone to Okinawa. Do you remember arriving there and what it was like?
Yes. First of all, the ship we were on is the Koda Going. It was a Dutch ship, a reprisal from the Germans in the First World War. It had wooden decks. We were about to disembark and to get onto the Higgins boats, and we had to go back in the hold because kamikaze planes were coming over. And after that was through, we did disembark. And I did notice that there was a DE that was very close to us, and they had a kamikaze plane that had hit that DE that was very close to us.
I'm sorry, you said D? What's a DE?
Destroyer escort.
Oh, okay.
And of course, being in the Seabees, actually we were dressed, I had a carbine and a machete, and we had 2 days K rations. The Higgins boat, they landed us in the wrong place. We got off the Higgins boat, and this Marine said, you the Marine replacement? He said, no, we're Seabees. And the officer said, get the heck out of here. Well, we were grumbling because he was on this thing, on this Higgins boat for quite a while. And
could you explain what a Higgins boat is?
Oh, a Higgins boat is a landing craft. And the front drops down, and then you get out and you go right onto the shore. Well, we get back on, and we're getting back on. One of the Marines says, well, you're lucky, he says, because the Japs are on the other side of the hill. So we went further up, about 5 miles up to a Warsaw Peninsula. That's where we landed. And now we're coming into a Warsaw Peninsula, and someone on the bullhorn, get these men in here, because there was more kamikaze planes coming over. They weren't coming after us. They were going for the ships that are out in the bay. So that was a little experience.
What was your job assignment?
Well, when I first got there, I was trained on a .30 caliber machine gun. So part of it was I was set up for that, but I never did use that machine gun when I was overseas. And the 36th Special was a stevedore battalion. I was in headquarters company, so of course I was in the part where it involved taking care of the battalion, the companies. 2 companies left the ship and went to other ships, and 2 companies, besides the headquarters company, landed on shore, and then, of course, they just unloaded the ships and they came about. What I do remember is when the kamikaze planes were coming over, and this happened on a daily basis, for some reason, I guess at 17 years old you don't think of it, but I would get up on the top of all these cargo to look out so I could see the kamikaze planes, not realizing there's a lot of shrapnel that's coming down from the the guns that are being shot off.
Were there any casualties in your unit?
There were a couple of casualties because of the shrapnel.
Okay, so not fatalities, but more injuries?
No. There was one, I'm not sure what it was. There was one fatality. It involved someone who was in a Jeep someplace, and I'm not sure what had happened. But he was not at the base on the Warsaw Peninsula at the time.
You mentioned some memorable experiences. Are there others?
Oh, yes. My cousin Earl, and he was in, I believe, the 10th Army. He was in the military police. Now, for some reason, we could not write where we were. And, of course, when we were going, we didn't know where we were going anyway. But my mother, I guess, figured it out when, she got the letter that I'm leaving the States, and then next thing she hears is the invasion of Okinawa. She wrote to my cousin, and she told him she thinks I'm on Okinawa, and that's where he was. Well, he had access to all of the outfits around the island. So, not too long after I was there, my cousin comes up, he said, it took me hours to find you. And because he has this MP, is all dressed up, it took me hours to find you. Every time I asked where you were, they pointed me to the wrong direction. So he just spotted me. So I passed the word around, hey, that's my cousin. So, so any other time he came after that, he didn't have any problem locating me.
Any other stories like that you can remember from Okinawa?
I had a good officer. After the island was secured, I went into the dispersing department, which is like the payroll department. And for some reason, the officer took me out. We went to someplace, and coming back, there was a lot of rain, and the Jeep got stuck. Well, it was Mr. Niedermeyer, Ben Niedermeyer, nicest guy. That it got stuck in all the mud, and very close to our base. Now we were up on top of the side of the mountain at the time. And I expect he was saying, okay, get out and get somebody. But no, he told me to sit in the Jeep, stay in the Jeep. And he went out and walked through all this mud that went up too close to his knees, I guess, to get help to get the Jeep out of this mud. So that's an experience I remember.
Talk a little bit about the awards, medals, and citations that you received.
Well, let's see. I have to look.
And you could show them too.
Okay. I kind of put this right up here. It is the World War II Victory Medal, and the American Area Medal, and the Asiatic Pacific Area Medal with 1/16 Bronze Star.
And how do you get those medals?
Well, I guess the World War II medal comes with the fact that I was in World War II, and the Asiatic Area Medal was because I guess it was in Okinawa, and the American Area Medal, I'm not sure what that means, but the Asiatic Pacific Medal, because it was in Okinawa. And the star, I guess, is because I was in the invasion of Okinawa.
How did you stay in touch with your family during all of this?
We had, I can't think of what they call it now, used to write the things, and I do have someplace here.
Were they called V-mails?
V-mail, that's what it was, right. And they photograph it. And it's photographs, and my family, someplace along I thought I had here, but I can't find it.
While you're looking through there, have you any pictures of when you were on Okinawa?
Yes.
Or your buddies or whatever?
Yeah, I do have some pictures. Let's see. Let me take a look here. Here is, okay, the V-mail.
Okay, just hold that like that a minute. Okay.
And that says, okay, getting more than enough to eat. And of course, I do have some letters that go that go with it, and I have a few more like that. I do have. This is a picture of the area where General Buckner was killed.
And who was General Buckner?
He was the commander of the forces in Okinawa.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, it's not such a good picture, but this was taken with some others, and it's with a Japanese flag.
Are you in that?
I have to look. Yes, I'm the one that's in the middle.
Okay. Okay, up a little bit. Right there. Good. Thank you.
Oh, Lieutenant Edelmeyer. That's his picture right here. Yeah, Ben Edelmeyer. That was taken in September 1945, I see, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Talk a little bit about so you've emailed your family. They were able to stay in touch with you.
Right, yes.
Okay. How about the food? Talk a little bit about food. In fact, you mentioned something before about
The
K rations.
K rations, yeah. They were like a little bit bigger than Cracker Jack box, I guess. And as I recall, there was a breakfast. By the way, each one had 2 cigarettes in it. Each one had 2 cigarettes. And it's been so long ago I can't recall what the food was. There was something there, some mixtures that you could have, maybe coffee, where you could just put the mixture in for coffee. And there was a can. Each one had a can. So maybe the breakfast had a can of eggs, and I'm not sure what the lunch was and what the dinner was, but they had. That's what it was, and of course after that, then when they set up the chow halls, then you just got the food that came out from the chow hall.
So would you say you had plentiful enough food and supplies?
Yeah, I don't ever recall feeling hungry.
What about pressure, stress? You recall what that was like when you were there? Did you feel under a lot of pressure?
I don't think so. You know, being 17, going on to, well, I was 18 years old at the time when I hit Okinawa. But at that age, I guess that was not a factor. Of course, what I do remember is the typhoons coming into Okinawa. Our camp was like wiped out. Of course, at the time, we called the Japanese the Okinawans. We called them gooks. That was, and just like Japanese, you call them Japs at the time. And I always remember before the typhoons, thinking, you know, they're in their villages and they can't see anything on the side of the hills, but they weren't up on the top. We had a camp after they secured the island, and we're overlooking Buckner Bay. Beautiful view. Well, a typhoon came and took all our equipment and it dropped it down to where they were. And I have pictures showing where they're picking up all the lumber and all. I said, these stupid Japs, they don't know what they're doing, and they're picking up all the lumber.
So you remember that typhoon pretty well.
Oh yes, it did a job. It did a job on the ships. There were more ships that were along the shore, and they had the PBMs and PBYs. They were all smashed up, and it was a shame, really. And of course, we all knew that we were there. We knew why we were there when they secured the island. We knew where the next step was going to be. It was pretty obvious. And all I can think of is, for me, the atomic bomb really would have put a real snafu on it, regardless of just having all that equipment there. So much equipment was gone. I don't know how they could ever have continued on with an invasion of Japan in the period of time I understand they had planned to have the invasion. It's my understanding they planned on having the initial invasion for the southern part of Japan in October or November, I believe it was, and then another invasion in February of 46. And so much equipment was lost and damaged that certainly could not have happened the way they originally planned it.
Was there anything special you did for so-called good luck? Did you have any good luck charms? Was there any superstition about things like that?
No, not that I can think of. I can't recall.
How did you entertain yourself back then? What was the kinds of things that you had?
Well, the only thing we had was the movies. They did have movies, and I'm not sure it's on a nightly basis or when it was. When we first went up, I don't recall too much on the movies until the island was secured. And we get up on to the side of the mountain overlooking Buckner Bay. At first, we didn't have a movie, but there was an outfit that was about a couple of miles away, and we would go along and go to the movie, and then walk back from that movie.
Were there any entertainers there?
There was no. I didn't see any. They could have been from the USO, but we didn't see any.
Did you ever get a leave?
Yes. When the 36th Special was disbanded, I was transferred to the 36th NCB. They were disbanded, and then I was transferred to the 125th NCB. Well, although I'm young in age, the 125th came into the island after the war was over, after the invasion was over anyway. And they came up with a leave to Shanghai, China. And I had more time on Okinawa than anyone on the 125th CB. So I was one chosen to go on this rest leave. So I went on the rest leave to Shanghai, China. We took, another fellow and we shared a case, not a carton, a case of cigarettes. Now we were paying 50 cents 50 cents a carton for cigarettes. So I used most of the half a case of cigarettes for my trip to Shanghai, China.
So you weren't a smoker then?
Oh, of course I was a smoker. I used to smoke 2 packs a day at the time. But regardless, this we used instead of money. We used that instead of money, and that was worth. It was worth 10 times. When I first got to Shanghai, you don't realize what it's worth, and I was giving it away almost, and then I realized, hey, this is worth 10 or 20 times what I paid for it. So I had a good time in Shanghai, China, and I have pictures. I have pictures of of Shanghai, China. Then.
Do you recall any humorous events, whether you were in China on leave or anywhere else that you particularly remember?
A humorous event. There could be, but I can't seem to think of any.
How much time did you spend on Okinawa?
Well, when on Okinawa, when was it? I can't recall the exact date, but I left Okinawa in June of 1946, and I went to San Francisco. And, a very interesting thing. When I went to the service, a good friend of mine, a buddy of mine, Fred Lightbaum, he went into the Navy a month before I did. He was in Sampson, New York. He left, and he left Sampson. He came over and said, "Hey, I'm going to Davisville, Rhode Island." Well, it wasn't just 2 weeks after that. Here I'm going down to Davisville, Rhode Island. I met a fellow named Vinnie LaPrade, who comes from the same time, went to the same school as I did. And when I went in to Sampson, New York, there was a fellow named Blondie Anderson, who graduated from Gorton High School the year before I did. And he also went there. So the four of us who came from the same school, and one was a buddy of mine, we went overseas together, and we were on Okinawa together. I went home. When I went back with Vinnie LaPrade, and I went back. We went to San Francisco and together, and we went across country together. We got discharged together in Boston, New York. And Lightbound was discharged before me, and Anderson also got discharged before me.
Did you say Boston or New York?
Boston.
Boston.
I didn't say Boston. Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay. You just mentioned at least one or two of your fellow soldiers. Any others that you can remember? Anything about your other officers or soldiers during your time in the service that you remember?
Well, just, Ben Niedermeyer, who I thought a great deal of. He was a terrific person. Again, he couldn't be that much. I don't think he could have been any more than maybe 22 years old himself at the time.
Are you in touch with him now? Did you?
No, I never stayed in touch with him. I did stay in touch with someone, and I can't even think of his name, it's been so long, who was in Texas, and another fellow that was in around Chicago way, who was in the 125th NCB that I became friends with. And for a while, but after a few years, you just the cars don't come back and forth anymore. Right. So.
Did you keep a diary?
No.
Do you recall the day your service ended?
Yes, I recall. Getting on the train from Boston to Providence, and then getting the bus from Providence to the little town of Oakland Beach, and getting off the bus in Oakland Beach at Mike Street and walking down the street. I recall more vividly leaving Oakland Beach. I remember the day. It was Fred Lightbound and I, and we were coming back, and we know we were leaving. This is the weekend. It was on a Sunday evening, and I remember he lived on the top of the street of my street. We had some dates. It was Fred Lightbound's girlfriend at the time or something, and they dropped us off. So I went home. I came out of my house after saying goodbye to my mother and father, and Fred was right there at the door. And I always remember my mother saying, "You take good care of him, Freddie." And then we were walking up the street on Oakland Beach Avenue, going as we were going towards the base, and always remember that time leaving Oakland Beach.
What did you do after you got home? First days and weeks after you got out of the service.
I think the first days didn't do too much, I think. It was like seeing old friends again, seeing friends again. I come from a resort town. Oakland Beach was a resort town. I had a merry-go-round and a penny arcade where I had worked before there. So I think at that time I spent a lot of time down in the merry-go-round and the penny arcade. I was not a drinker at the time, so that was.
Did you end up going back to school at that point?
I did, yeah. I went back to school. I got an associate degree in accounting.
Did you make use of the GI Bill?
Through the GI Bill, yes. I think most probably, if it wasn't for the GI Bill, most probably I wouldn't have gone to college.
Did you make any? Maybe you've mentioned already. Closest friendships that you made in the service. Who would they? Anyone at all? Who would
Well,
you have
there was
said?
no one that I kept except, I guess, except Vinnie LaPrade and Fred Lightbound, who I had known before anyway. But
And you said but you're not in touch with them now.
both Fred Lightbound, the three that I mentioned, I'm the only one that's left.
Okay. Did you end up joining any veterans organization?
Yeah, the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign War.
Are you still in those organizations?
Yeah, I'm still
Okay.
active in them.
What did you do? What did you go on to as a career after the war?
Well, when I graduated from college, Truman said there was a recession. In Rhode Island, to me, it was like a depression. So these jobs in accounting, they were hard to find. And I went to an employment agency. I was with an employment agency. And one employment agency said, well, we have a job in an insurance company. And it's in their claim department, but if you get there, maybe you can get into their accounting department. So I went into what they call Providence, Washington Insurance Company, and I started in their claim department, and I never left the insurance claims. That's what I did for a living.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
I guess I never thought of it that way, but I'm sure it did.
If in a veterans organization, what kind of activities does your post or association have?
Well, in North Haven is pretty active. They are active locally, and they take care of the veterans. And the VFW that is not as active as it had been, and I think it might be picking up, but I think there's so many veterans that are going, and there's not that many veterans who are joining the VFW. So, but that may change because of the wars that are going on now.
Last few questions, and I may have asked you already. Did you do you attend any reunions of your outfit?
No, we had some reunions in Davisville, Rhode Island, years ago, and it was not for a specific outfit. It was just like Seabees in Davisville, Rhode Island, but that was years and years ago. There hasn't been anything, and I haven't, like I said, I haven't kept in touch with anyone in the service, and the only ones I kept in touch with happened to be my friends that I went in the service with.
How did your service and experiences affect your life?
Well, I think it gave me more of an appreciation of what the service people are doing right now. I think someone that's not been in the service doesn't realize some of the sacrifices that the service people are, and now women, servicemen and women, what they don't realize the service that is being received from them.
Finally, is there anything that you'd like to add that we didn't cover in this interview?
You did a pretty good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you.